जय श्री राम। अब हम लोग कैंटो 35 सुनेंगे। मैं पढ़ूंगी, ऑब्वियसली आप लोग सुनेंगे। एंड आप लोगों को यही जो इतना अभी तक अयोध्या कांड में भी हो गया है, आई एम श्योर आप लोगों को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा होगा। मुझे तो पढ़ के बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है। आई होप आप लोगों को सुन के भी अच्छा लग रहा है। सो ये कैंटो में क्या है? Hoping that by being provoked to anger, Kaikeyi might come round and relax her insistence on sending Sri Ram into exile, Sumantra harshly reproaches her, reminding her of her mother's misbehavior towards her husband, Kaikeyi's father. Kaikeyi, however, remains adamant and does not budge even an inch from her purpose. Beating his head all of a sudden and sighing again and again, pressing his hand against the other and grinding his teeth, turning his eyes crimson with wrath, shedding his former normal color, overwhelmed as he was with anger, and suddenly falling a prey to bitter agony, nay, carefully reading the mind of Dashrath, Sumantra spoke as follows, shaking Kaikeyi's heart as it were with sharp arrows in the form of words, and as though piercing all her vitals with his acrimonious words, resembling so many peerless thunderbolts. Surely there is nothing on earth most undesirable for you, by whom your husband King Dashrath himself, the supporter of the entire creation, both immobile and mobile, stands betrayed. O Queen, I consider you to be the murderess of your husband and ultimately the exterminator of your race. 2. In that you torment with your actions your husband, who is invincible as the great Indra, unshakable as a mountain, and imperturbable as an ocean. Do not despise Dashrath, your husband and lord, the bestower of boons, as the will of a husband is superior to that of 10 millions of sons. Indeed, on the death of a king, his sons inherit the sovereign's right according to seniority of age. You seek to violate this time-honored practice even in the presence of this ruler of the Ikshvakus. Let your son Bharat be crowned king and rule over the earth. We, for our part, shall go wheresoever Ram goes. Nor should any Brahman dwell in your kingdom. If you perpetuate today such an act of impropriety as you are intent on perpetrating, we shall all positively follow the path resorted to by Sri Ram. What joy, O royal lady, will be derived through attainment of sovereignty by you, who will thus be deserted for good by all your kin and kith, Brahmans and other pious souls. You seek to perpetrate such an act of impropriety. I reckon it a wonder that the earth is not immediately rent asunder as a sequel to your resorting to such improper conduct. Nor do rods of punishment in the form of fiery and obviously fearful reproach uttered by great Brahman sages, Vashishta and others, kill you who are bent on exiling Sri Ram. Who on earth will nurture a neem tree, felling down a mango tree with an axe, and a neem tree will not turn sweet for him who nourishes it with milk? Indeed, I account your innate disposition to be exactly similar to that of your mother. The proverb is often quoted in the word that surely honey does not flow from a neem tree. You know, as heard of in the past, the intentness of your mother on evil. Someone capable of granting boons bestowed a most excellent boon to your father. By virtue of it, the king your father could understand the language of all created beings. The talk of those belonging to subhuman species was thereby understood by him. From the shrill city cry of a bird heard by him while in his bed, in the meaning of it was accordingly deciphered by your exceedingly glorious father, and he laughed over it repeatedly. Your mother grew indignant at this and seeking even to hang him in case he refused to disclose the reason of his laughter, spoke as follows: I wish to know the meaning of your laughter, O gentle monarch. The king too replied to that royal lady, If I tell you the reason of my laughter, my death will speedily follow from it. There is no doubt about it. Your mother then said to your father, the ruler of Caicais, Live or die as you will. In any case, tell me the reason of your laughter. Then alone shall I be satisfied that you shall not laugh at me hereafter. Thus told thus by his beloved consort, the said king of Caicais, for his part, correctly reported the matter to the sage who had bestowed the boon on him. Thereupon the holy man who had bestowed the boon on him replied to the king, Let her die or depart from your house for her parents' home. Reveal you not the secret to her, O ruler of the earth. Hearing the aforesaid reply of the holy man, who was pleased at heart with him, and speedily repudiating your mother, the said king, your father, lived happily like Kuber, the god of riches. Treading on the path trodden by wicked men and seeing evil everywhere, you too likewise are urging this emperor through infatuation to adopt an evil course. Nay, the popular saying on this subject that males take after their father and females after their mother appears to me as true. Do not follow the ways of your mother and accept that which the emperor enjoins on you. Following the will of your husband, be a protectress to these people here. Do not, as incited by the wicked constraint of your husband, who is at the same time the protector of the world and vies in splendor with Indra, to adopt an improper course of conduct. The glorious and lotus-eyed king Dashrath, who is free from sin, would not belly the promise made by him to you, O royal lady. Let Ram, the eldest of his sons, who is generous, strong, and given to righteous act, and is capable not only of vindicating his own duty as a Kshatriya, but also protecting the entire living creation, be installed on the throne of Ayodhya. A great calumny will surely spread about you, O royal lady, if Ram goes to the forest leaving his royal father. Let Sri Ram, a sign of Raghu, protect his own kingdom and be you free from anxiety. Ruling over Ayodhya, the foremost of cities, no king other than Sri Ram will be favorably disposed to you. Bearing in mind the conduct of his forebears, King Dashrath, who wields a mighty bow, will surely retire to the forest in the event of Sri Ram's being installed in the office of Prince Regent. In this way, with folded hands, Sumantra, for his part, violently shook Kaikeyi with pungent remarks as well as with the kind words in the king's court. The said queen, however, was neither excited nor agonized, nor was any change observed at that time in the color of her face. Thus ends Canto 35 in the Ayodhya Kand of the glorious Ramayana of Valmiki, the work of a rishi and the oldest epic. Now we come to Canto 36. Dashrath instructs Sumantra to take a detachment of the army and the exchequer along with Sri Ram, to which Kaikeyi objects and insists on his being sent into exile without any resource on the analogy of Asmanja, son of the king's forefather Sagar. Another minister of the king, Siddhartha by the name, who was present there, opposes Kaikeyi and urges that the analogy of Asmanja, who was a perverse lad, could not be applied in the case of Sri Ram, who possessed an ideal character and deserved in every way to be installed in the office of Prince Regent. In the event of Kaikeyi vetoing the proposal, the king threatens to accompany the heir apparent. Sighing deeply with tears in his eyes, Dashrath, a scion of Ikshvaku, who was bound by the pledge given by him to Kaikeyi in the matter of sending Sri Ram into exile, then spoke to Sumantra again as follows. Let a detachment consisting of all the four limbs of the army and richly provided with jewels be detailed at once to accompany Sri Ram, a sign of Raghu, O Sumantra. Nay, let courtesans adept in speaking as well as merchants possessing enormous wealth and clever in efficiently spreading a network of shops dealing with provisions and other goods lend charm to the forces accompanying the prince. Further, tell of his service those wrestlers too who depend on him and in whom he takes delight by testing their comparative strength, bestowing various gifts on them. Let the principal weapons, courteous and well bred men, and bullock carts too, as well as hunters, knowing the secrets of forest, accompany Ram, a scion of Kakushta. Killing the deer and elephants and drinking wild honey and seeing various rivers, he would not miss his sovereignty. Let that which constitutes my granary and that which comprises my exchequer both accompany Ram, going to dwell in an uninhabited forest, performing sacrifices in holy regions and bestowing adequate gifts on the officiating priests and meeting sages too. He will live away happily in the forest. And the mighty armed Bharat will rule over Ayodhya. Let the glorious Ram therefore be sent out with all objects of enjoyment. While Dashrath, a sign of Kakushta, was speaking as aforesaid, fear seized Kaikai. Nay, her mouth too got parched and voice as well got choked. Feeling dejected and dismayed, with her mouth getting parched and her face turned exclusively towards the king, she replied as follows: Bharat will not accept a kingdom that has been stripped of its wealth and resembles wine divested of its spirituous part, and which is thus absolutely unenjoyable and unsubstantial, O pious soul. When Kaikai, who was thus shamelessly uttering most cruel words, the king Dashrath spoke as follows to that lady with large eyes: having charged me with a burden, viz. of that of sending Ram into exile, which is so hard to bear, O hostile and vulgar woman, why do you lash me while I am carrying it? Why did you not check before while asking the two boons by laying down that Ram should not be allowed to take anything with him? The proceedings now taken in hand of sending troops, etc., with Ram? Doubly incensed to hear the angry words of Dashrath, Kaikai, the lovely woman, replied to the king as follows: In your very dynasty, Emperor Sagar cast away his eldest son, known by the name of Asmanja. Ram too should depart likewise without anything to depend upon. Spoken as above, King Dashrath simply said, Shame! Everyone present there too felt ashamed. She, however, did not mind it. On that occasion, the aged and upright chief minister, Siddharth by name, who was highly esteemed by the king, spoke to Kaikai as follows, so the tradition goes. Catching hold of children playing in the street, Asmanja just used to throw them in the waters of the Sharayu, and the evil-minded fellow took delight in it. Enraged to see that murderous prank of the crown prince, all the citizens submitted to the king, Keep to yourself, Asmanja, alone, allowing us to leave the city, or preserve us, sending away the prince, O promoter of the state. Thereupon the king said to them, What is the occasion for this fear? Duly interrogated by the king, those people too replied to the king. He experiences incomparable joy while throwing through folly in the Sharayu, our juvenile sons playing in an excited state of mind. Hearing the complaint of those people, the said king abandoned his son, malevolent to his subjects, with intent to oblige them, quickly placing him along with his wife and accessories, viz. A spade, basket, and so on, necessary adjuncts to a forest life. He instructed those in authority in the following words: He should be exiled for life. Taking a basket and a spade and roaming about in all directions in search of roots and fruits, etc., he ransacked mountains, mountain passes in quest of an abode. The highly pious King Sagar obviously abandoned Samanja on the plea of his perpetrating sinful deeds as mentioned above. What sin has Sri Ram committed for which he is being debarred from the throne in this way? Surely we do not detect any fault in Sri Ram, a sign of Raghu. It is difficult to find a taint in him as in the new moon. Or if you perceive any fault in Sri Ram, a sign of Raghu, O Queen, please point it out correctly today. Then Sri Ram will be sent into exile. Indeed, it is repugnant to all canons of righteousness to abandon one who is not only not guilty but also devoted to the straight path. It would destroy the splendor even of Indra, the ruler of gods. Therefore, O Queen, it is of no use your withholding the royal fortune of Sri Ram. Censoring coming from the public too should be guarded against by you, O lady with a charming countenance. Hearing the remonstrance of Siddharth, the king for his part, whose voice had grown very feeble, spoke as follows to Kaikai in a tone overwhelmed with grief. Do you not like this advice, O embodiment of sin? Having taken to a path leading to woo, are you not alive to my interest or your own? Indeed, your gesture is remote from the path of the righteous and as such an undesirable one. Abandoning the kingly state, bodily comfort and wealth, I shall follow Ram to the forest today, as also all the people of Ayodhya. Rule you the kingdom happily for long with Bharat. Thus ends Canto 36 in the Ayodhya Kand of the glorious Ramayana of Valmiki, the work of a rishi and the oldest epic. Jai Shri Ram.